9:40 exactly on News and Views right here on Salam Media. Next, we're going to be talking with Dr. Dale McKinley, political analyst and economist. A very good morning to you, Dr. McKinley. Nice to have you on the show.
Good morning, Julie, and to all your listeners as well.
Here I'm sitting and thinking just how lucky. Aren't these ministers, MPs and judges very lucky to be possibly going to be enjoying a 3% salary increase? And I know some people would scoff at 3%, but in terms of the type of packages they take home, 3% is a very healthy amount, is it not? We also understand that in Godangwana, the finance minister has proposed a lower salary hike. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I think, first of all, any South African these days is going to look at a salary hike of public servants with a bit of alarm, should we say, and a bit of surprise, because all of us are feeling the squeeze. Everyone, to get a salary increase at this stage is quite a privilege, I think, for anyone, unless you are obviously a government official or a politician in this case, because it seems automatic with them every single year. I don't think there's a year that's gone by over the last, since 94 almost, where there hasn't been an increase. We've never seen a decrease. I think one time we did see, after the 2008 financial crisis, a freeze for a little while in the salary. So I think that's the first thing, is there's a sense that the politicians are continuing to be out of touch with the ordinary South African and not understanding that already they are privileged. They're getting, as you mentioned, very good salary packages, not just the salaries, but the perks, all of the different kinds of things that they get alongside that, pensionable services. They get travel, accommodation, a whole range of other kinds of things. So in that context, I think that it's a bit of a slap in the face for most South Africans. I think it would have been politically correct for the president and others to say, not this year. At least just keep things the way they are. That would have been a sign to South Africans that they take everyone's plight seriously, that there is an economic crisis for everybody else, and that politicians and senior public officials are not above everyone else. That we don't have two different sets of rules, one for politicians and senior government officials and another one for the public and ordinary folks. So I think in that context, it's politically, it's not a good move. And it's understandable that the finance minister would probably want to say no, because he's looking at the purse and it's very tight. And any kind of increase is going to increase the salary bill. And obviously, he's going to have to find those funds. So I think if they had listened to the finance ministry and indicated that there should be at least a freeze, that would have been satisfactory. An increase is not a good sign for the indication that our politicians are in touch with the ordinary person.
I think President Cyril Ramaphosa has misstepped on this one, simply because the elections are around the corner. And I think if they had frozen salary increases, they probably would have gotten lots more people voting for them come the 2024 elections. But hey, it's just me making that comment. I think the worry for us as taxpayers is, where's the money coming from? Does this mean an extra burden on us as taxpayers?
Sure. I mean, if one looks at where the government gets its money from, it's pretty much all from tax. It's the tax base, whatever kinds of different taxes those are. Obviously, one of those is income taxes, which affects us as individuals. But we also pay a whole range of other taxes. We pay, whether that's VAT, whether we pay fuel taxes on the fuel, taxes on transport, we pay toll fees. We pay a whole range of different kinds of taxes in our daily lives. And yes, they always have to go up if you're going to have more money that's going to be spent on whatever that is, in this case, salaries. So, or you have to have an adjustment in the budget. In other words, the Treasury has to look just like you would look at your household budget, and you would say, well, my transport costs have gone up this month. I'm going to have to shift some from my food budget to my transport budget, or I'm going to have to shoot it to my education to pay for my kids. So what one gains, another one loses in that sense, in the context. So it does have an impact, whether or not it's going to increase. But in indications are that we're going to see we're going to see tax income increases in the next year or two, because government simply doesn't have at this stage the kind of income that it needs in order to make the expenditure. We're already borrowing quite heavily. Our debt limits are rising, and our payments on that debt are rising, and the interest rates are rising. So we have to be very, very careful here, because not only is there a potential debt trap, but as we've seen in other cases, when people make more money in terms of the public service, that usually means services suffer, and the money is taken from those budgets.
I'm thinking about opposition parties. Do they have room to possibly oppose this? Or are they also going to benefit from, being members of parliament, or whatever the case may be? They too would then benefit, so it wouldn't be in their interest to oppose this, would it?
Well, they're going to make political capital. I mean, we expect that. They're going to try to, I think, paint the ANC as out of touch. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct. Is that indications are that, I mean, the DA, for example, which governs in the Western Cape, hasn't exactly been freezing the salaries of its provincial staff either, and I have no doubt will be giving an increase across the board, if not an inflation one. So I think oftentimes political parties are a little bit sort of, I wouldn't say silent on this, but they're careful in where they tread, because if they come out too strongly opposed to this, and then they find themselves governing a situation where they have to make these kinds of decisions in terms of the budget, or whether they themselves, as you mentioned, and their constituencies are going to be fundamentally affected, in other words, not get any salary increases, then there could be a backlash there. So it's in most politicians and most political parties' interest to have salary increases for their constituencies. But I think you'll find some of the smaller parties will make quite a bit of noise.
Recently, we've heard about lots of upgrades to ministers' homes, etc., with Eskom's shenanigans, the country being on continuous blackouts, whatever they want to call it, the load shedding. Small businesses have suffered tremendously. Lots of businesses have closed down, etc. And yet politicians and ministers are living the high life. We've heard about homes being upgraded. We've heard about ministers not being impacted, and politicians, obviously, local councillors as well, not being impacted by load shedding. What do you make of all of that? And should we be making our voices, should we be more vociferous about and outraged about all of these issues, or does it just once again fall on deaf ears?
No, I think we should be making. I think civil society, which has raised these issues over the years, but I think there is a sort of a general sort of shrugging of the shoulders in many cases, and saying, well, what do we expect of our politicians? Of course, they're going to give themselves increases. Of course, they're going to give themselves all of these perks. And that's what everybody else does. That's what all the other politicians in other countries do. But you're right, it's not acceptable. And it's certainly not acceptable in a country with such inequality and such basic needs that are for such a large section of the population. I have argued for a long time, and I think many others have, that one of the biggest mistakes of the ANC right at the beginning of the democratic dispensation was when that remuneration commission, which sat in 1994, and set the salaries scale. And the reason why is because once you set those salary scales at such an incredibly high level, where you get director generals or CEOs of for example, Eskom making 5-6 million a year, plus all the rest of it, you have the senior politician MPs themselves making $1.5 million a year, and you look at the average salary for a worker, what you've done is you set politicians and senior officials above society. And you basically made them into an elite class. And that was precisely what the struggle was not about. It wasn't about, getting the big prize and getting the big house and the car and everything else because you're a politician or because you're senior government. It was about being with the people. And I think that was a fundamental moral mistake, not just a political one, but morally. The struggle for liberation was based upon equality, based upon at least a society that wasn't so unequal. In that case, based on race, but in this case, based on class and political position. So since then, in the last 30 years, we've been paying that price, and it's almost like doubling down. In other words, instead of rethinking that process, what we have is the politicians just keep raising it, and it keeps getting even further. So now we have a situation where senior government officials are making 20, 30 times more than your average middle-class individual. And this is just simply not sustainable in a country like ours. So yes, we should be making a lot more noise. There should be more anger about it. And politicians should be brought down to the level of the people, not just given an excuse to continue to live the high life, as you mentioned.
I've got a few more important questions that I'd like to put to you, but can we go for an ad break first, please? Thank you.
Sure.
Listen to Salam Media.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Help us ease the hunger burdens of those in need by donating to the Sanzaf Meals Project. For just 12 Rand, you can provide a freshly prepared meal to an individual, and with your commitment to a monthly contribution, we can reach out to even more communities and deserving individuals. Call us on 011 834 6046 to learn more about this life-changing initiative. Sanzaf, changing lives through development and relief.
Conveniently located along the banks of the Crocodile River bordering the Kruger National Park, as a guest at Buckler's Africa Lodge, one can enjoy an amazing sunrise or sunset on our spacious deck area while you catch a glimpse of some wildlife sightings along the Crocodile River. The sounds of the African savannah will greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Buckler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa.
I'm going to wrap up. I can't wait till after 10
These
today.
days are smart, and when you're competing for their attention against their smartphones, you need to make smart choices, like using Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, or baking, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, change the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
It is exactly 9:54, and of course we're going to have to let Dr. McKinley go in a minute or two, as he has another appointment at 10 o'clock. So a final question to you, Dr. McKinley. We speak about politicians, members of parliament, government officials, etc., earning top dollar as far as salary is concerned. Is this not the general trend internationally?
Yes, as I mentioned, it is unfortunately the general trend, but there are some exceptions. So, for example, what we see in some countries, such as Bolivia, where there has been a change of government, in Cuba as well, in some other countries, I think in Vietnam, and several others, where there are sort of fairly salaries that are fairly equal across the board, and certainly not way above what your average person is earning in the economy. But generally speaking, for the vast majority of countries, yes, we have a system which, in some very perverted way, rewards politicians for doing not much what your ordinary person is doing. I mean, you sit in parliament, you're doing a job, but why should there be this such inequality of remuneration simply because you're a politician? And I think this is where we have a problem, is the political parties, particularly governing or ruling political parties, are the ones that pass the legislation and that pass these regulations and that make these kinds of decisions. So it's in their interest to continuously raise their salaries, to continuously pay themselves well, not only because they can live a high life, but because their political parties can also benefit. So we need to change that system. We need not just in South Africa, but globally, where we need to have a political system where being a public servant is a service, not a privilege, not an avenue to get rich. And that's going to take some time, because I think we've bought into a system which tells us that, yeah, if we're going to go that right, we're going to make a lot of money and we're going to become fairly wealthy, or at least in the context of what normal people are earning. And I think if we're going to have a political system that's more accountable and politicians that are closer to the people, this is an area where we have to pay much, much more attention to and change.
And sadly, in the case of South Africa, the politicians, councillors, right from the top to the bottom, are not even suitably qualified for the positions they hold. And that is why we find ourselves in the mess that we're in right now. But that's where I'll leave it, because I do know you have another appointment. So thank you indeed for your insights on this matter. Love to talk to you again sometime in the near future.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
That was Dr. Dale McKinley. He's a political analyst and an economist, talking about the salary increase, the proposed 3% salary increase for government officials, ministers, judges, etc. I'm in the wrong job is all I can say. Right, that's where we leave it. Thank you indeed for being on the show with me this morning. Till tomorrow morning at the same time. As always, take care on the roads. Do hope you've enjoyed the show. A shout out, of course, as always, to our producer Nasreen Naidu and the guy behind the controls that makes everything else happen. That is you, Abdus Salam. Thank you indeed. As always, keep safe. Salamu alaikum and Khudafiz from me, Julie Ali.